What's going on, everybody? LK here, and what a surprise! Not expecting to upload this. We got an announcement about Persona 4 Ultimax coming to, I believe, PS4, Switch, Steam, and basically like all modern consoles. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. Now, I've been uploading videos about Persona 4 Arena and Ultimax, mostly Arena, but I want to get you guys ready for the game. So this video is just about what type of game this is in the first place, because a lot of you guys miss out on this. Persona is way bigger than it was at that time. So Ultimax is a sequel to Arena, and the easy way that I like to put it is that in Persona 4 Arena, all the characters are like level 60. Like, let's say you're at normal endgame, but in Ultimax, all the characters are like level 95 or something, and you're getting ready to play against a secret boss. So the character power in the game is extremely high. It's very, very, very high. It's a pretty volatile game. It's a decent speed. The characters do vary a lot, and there's a lot of things you could just do, and you could pick your style anyway. So the main changes between Arena and Ultimax that made this happen, and I've kind of like touched on these in other videos where I mentioned like, I'm kind of personally a fan of Arena over Ultimax, is a couple of main things. So one, they generally made anti-airs weaker in the game, but they made jump-ins stronger. This is reflected by new characters like my main in this game, Margaret, who you see playing on the screen right now. She has a massive jump in Jump C. Her anti-air is honestly kind of trash. My opponent, my homie here playing Shadow Naoto. Naoto has one of the best anti-airs in the game, but it's extremely rare to have an anti-air that good in the first place. That's a big change number one. Big change number two is just overall damage output and comeback ability. So this game has a mechanic called Awakening, where when you're losing, you gain more defense, you get 50 meter right away, and you get access to a new super or something. And I ended up categorizing them into different groups. So Margaret, for example, the character you see on the screen, she has a damage one. Out of all of them, I think this one is the most fair. It just does a lot of damage. Then there are like effect types. So this is like the Titanomaquia of Shadow Labyrinth. If you haven't seen my video on Shadow Labyrinth, then please check that out. It's also on this channel. These ones are pretty cheap, not gonna lie. They have it's a super that has a really strong effect, and you can't really do anything about it. You just have to kind of like endure it. These are pretty annoying to deal with, and a bunch of characters have things like that. And then the last type is usually like a power-up or an install. The main ones off the top of my head would be someone like Adachi. So Adachi has a move called Magatsu Mandala, where he powers up his persona. His persona has a bunch of status effects. And speaking of status effects, they were in Arena, but they're just way more that you have to deal with in this version. So I'm fighting against Shadow Naoto, and you just missed it, and she did a combo. It's her shotgun. The shotgun applies a couple of status effects on you. It applies Fear, which increases hit stun when you get hit and you can't tech throws. And it applies Silence too, which you can't use your C and D buttons, and you can't burst at all. So as you could tell, extremely fair. There's more status effects than that, but it's just to give you a little idea of what type of things the characters can do. And speaking of which, we also have the shadows. So they added shadow characters as well. So in this version, we're playing the console version of Ultimax. So this is the 1.1 version of the game. And they are kind of fair in this version. So they were really unpopular, and people used to ask why people never use shadows besides like Naoto and Mitsuru. And it was mostly because the shadows were just inferior versions of the normal characters, because they're missing system mechanics. They can't burst. They have their own special mechanic where you get 100 meter and you activate a mode called Frenzy, and you can do specials into specials, supers into supers. And Naoto and Mitsuru are the best at taking advantage of that. But in the version we are getting actually an unreleased version that has never been on console ever. The last version of the game, I believe 2.5. So in this version, they buffed the shadows, because if you played Arc Sys games for a while, you know one of the things they like to buff is when people don't use something. So if you've been playing Guilty Gear Strive, for example, sometimes people are like, wow, why did they buff this move from this character? This character didn't need buffs. But the answer usually, at least in my opinion, they never say it, but at least in my opinion, is that people weren't using them. So similarly, they basically half the cast was not being used because everyone's like, shadows are inferior to the normal version. So in the version we're getting, we get to play the super strong shadow characters, and many shadows are considered super strong in the last version, like Shadow Ken, Shadow Mitsuru, of course. There's Naoto again, Shadow Narukami, So we are finally going to get access to the final versions of these characters. And speaking of characters, this time we've got everybody. So in Arena I think has like 13 characters. So there's some Persona 4 characters and some Persona 3 characters, but there's characters missing. Now Persona 4 Ultimax basically has everybody and new characters as well. So you have the entire Persona 4 cast over there. So you got like Teddy, Yukiko, Narukami, Yosuke, Chie, Kanji, Naoto, and then you have like Labris as well sliding in there, and Margaret as DLC. But then you have a bunch of Persona 3 characters that weren't in Persona 4 Arena. So you got like Ken, Yukari, Junpei, along with the rest like Akihiko and Mitsuru. You also get Adachi. I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but if you haven't played Persona 4, I'm sorry. Adachi's out here, and Marie's out here, and Rise is out here as well. But essentially just all the important characters are available, and the majority of them, not all of them, but the majority of them do have shadow versions as well for you to mess around with. So there's a lot of characters you could pick from. So summary, basically prepare yourselves. This is really stressful. Honestly, I should say it like this. It's a fun game. This is a very fun game. For me, the character power is pretty high, so it's like a pretty silly game. It's a tough tournament game. Look at what's happening to me right now. Like, my man's is putting all the fake counters on me. Now if I get hit, I'm gonna get instant killed. And I just somehow slide out of there. Like, when you're in that moment in like a tournament set, you're just like, Jesus fucking Christ, I have to do something or I'm gonna get deleted instantly. That shit was gonna do like 60 or 70% of my health. Like, come on. It's a pretty stressful game, but it's a really fun game. I'm super glad it's coming out. I really hope it has rollbacks. Speaking of instant kills, by the way, your man's got deleted. I really hope this game has rollback so that people can actually enjoy it. I am on the team right now that the best way for fighting games to succeed is definitely having the good netcode so everyone can play. But just having this version honestly is a start. So for everyone who's new to the series, welcome. I'm definitely going to post some guides and stuff. I'm going to keep trying to go through my character retrospectives. They've mostly been done from the arena perspective because, again, that's just the game I like better. Over the next couple of months, I'll try to have guides on how to pick characters, the basics of the game. Despite me saying all these things about the characters being really strong and stuff, the game is actually relatively easy to pick up and play. It's only a 4-button game. There's not really any complex motion inputs and things like that. Like a lot of more recent ArcSys games, it's a lot more about the strategy and tactics you use rather than raw execution. But if you are in the mood to do some really hard swaggy combos, you have that option too, and there are high execution characters as well. As usual, if you guys have any questions in the comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. If there's questions you have about this game, so maybe I'll pick one to make a video on as we approach the game. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.